Are you a chronic doer? Do you find yourself occupying your time with just doing and you almost can't stop? Then this episode is definitely for you because we're going to be talking about a very important strategy for getting ahead, which is rest. So stay tuned.
Hello, visionaries. Welcome to Create Your Vibrant Life podcast, where you can create the life you desire by tapping into your inner wisdom. I'm your host, Padma Ali. I'm widely known in the field of psychology to create long-lasting transformation. And now I'm here to help you create the life you desire using a combination of neuropsychology and ancient healing practices. This podcast is for you, evolved, overachieving leader who's ready to unlock your highest potential. I'm here to guide you through a process of self-discovery to be the creator of your destiny. And you can do all of that by just taking aligned actions, tapping into the power of your brain, your inner wisdom, and ancient practices. So stay tuned, folks. I am so delighted you are here.
Hello, visionaries. Welcome to another episode of your Create Your Vibrant Life podcast. This is episode 88. Wow. I am blown away that we are so far into our podcast game. And today we're going to be talking about rest. Rest is such an important strategy for getting ahead, which people do not. I see so many people and so many of my clients, when they come to me, this is where most people start. They're working, thinking that that's what's going to get them ahead. It's almost like there is no concept of rest. And why are we talking about rest today? I'm going to share a little bit more about what rest actually does to your brain. But before we go into that, I wanted to share a little bit about, you may have noticed, or you may not have noticed, we are all so caught up in our lives right now, right? That we haven't had an episode in a couple of weeks. And there's a reason for that. I actually wasn't feeling inspired. And more than that, we had another process of moving. If you're following me on social media for any amount of time, you might have noticed that I did another move from our Airbnb to our permanent home. And it took a lot from me to manage doing whatever, like my work and life. And my work and my life are all the same to me. But just balancing life, taking care of my kids, and settling into a new home. And so I wasn't feeling inspired, and I didn't want to come into doing a podcast episode with that energy. So I didn't do it. And one of the things I am very committed to is keeping my word. And so I did go through a process of, wow, I'm breaking my word to myself, and all of you listening to these podcast episodes, I know that you find a lot of value in it because I've gotten so much feedback about that. And the downloads speak words on themselves. What am I saying? The downloads speak for themselves is what I meant to say. And yet, I had to honor how I was feeling. And generally, I don't live my life based on how I feel because there are many times I don't want to do anything. I don't want to get up out of bed, but I have committed to doing things. And so I do get up and do things. So it took some time for me to say, it is okay. It is okay to not honor my words. To myself, more than anybody else, right? To myself, because you guys probably are like, yeah, she's going to come back, and you trust that, and I am, and so I'm here. And this is what prompted this whole episode. And by the way, guys, if you hear echo, I'm sitting in my office room, and there's not much furniture here right now, and so there's an echo, and I don't know how to make it go away. I don't know. Maybe my editing team will figure this out, but who knows? We'll see. We will see what happens. But either ways, if I get caught up in perfection, guess what? This episode is not going out. And so this episode is here for you. So however it sounds like that. So, rest. This episode was inspired by all of the happenings in my life in the last few weeks. And I realized that, as I was working with my clients, the same thing. Noticing how people come to me when they first start working with me, which is a lot of working and not a lot of rest. You have many motivational speakers speak about how it is really important to work hard to get ahead or work till your eyeballs bleed. And that is not how I live my life, and that's not what I teach my clients on how to live their life. Because what happens when you work and work and work and work? What happens? You will get burnt out. At some point or another, you are going to get burnt out. And so it's really vital that you take a step back and see what is it that you want to create. So part of rest, why is rest such an important strategy? So think about when you're in the doing mode. Like the last few weeks have been a lot of doing from my end, and I've had to remind myself and make my practices of meditation and hypnosis it's always a non-negotiable, but it became even more important to sit in that stillness. Because when we're busying ourselves, and yes, you may be in a busy mode or busy life season, but what happens to your creative thinking? What happens to, I'm going to use this word, downloads that you need to have in order to move your life or your work or your business or whatever ahead? It doesn't happen, right? Because your mind is so busy doing things. And if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of busyness that comes with kids, having children, taking them to activities, sitting down with them, getting their homework done, or whatever it is, or reading to them, or playing with them. It's a lot of busy activity that happens when you have young kids, or even you have kids in general. And it stops the creative thinking from happening. And so this episode was inspired by that, because I've made a big commitment to myself to rest every single day. Resting for me might look like going for a walk. Resting for me might mean just sitting quietly without even the intention of doing a meditation or a hypnosis, because even that is a doing. Resting might mean just sitting and watching the mountains from my back deck. The beautiful red rocks. If you've ever visited Sedona, you know what I'm talking about. Or if you haven't, look up Sedona and see. It's beautiful. Those beautiful red rocks have a lot of energy to them. And sometimes I just want to sit and stare at the mountains. And I've actually been giving myself permission to do that. I'm a recovering, or I have to say more like a recovered doer, because I used to do a lot in my life, which is very much against my strategy of living, because doing doesn't help me. And I am not saying about the things, like when I'm saying doing, it's you can do things and you can still keep your mind still. And that is what the bigger lessons in life are, which is even when you're doing, can you allow your mind to be still? I haven't gotten there yet, but that's my goal, so that I can allow that creative thinking, I can allow those downloads to happen even when I'm doing. So rest is such an important piece of how to get ahead. So a few things that I wanted to talk about rest. Why is that? How will that help you create anything you want in life? So when you're resting, when you're keeping your mind still, you may or may not notice that you have access to divine mind. You have access to divine consciousness, which is where everything comes from. I mean, think about it. How did Nikola Tesla do what he did? Or how did Einstein do what he did? How did the big thinkers do what they did or do? Or even in recent times, like Walt Disney. Like how did they come up with these creative ways of thinking or being? And it comes when you quieten the mind. And that can only come with rest. And maybe it comes to you when you are gardening. Maybe it comes to you when you are working on building a project, but something that doesn't count as doing. Because there's always things to do. Always. I mean, I look around my house, there's laundry to be folded, there's dinner to be cooked, there's, like the day-to-day stuff that needs to happen, along with when you're running a business like I am, there's things to do for the business to keep it going. And when you busy your mind with the doing, there is not enough time there's not enough room to allow inspiration to come or imagination to come. And I also come from a family of doers, like my whole family, including my husband, like not just my immediate family, but my extended family are all doers. I see my children, they are also like, it's like almost like inbuilt in us to be doing. My daughter less so than my son. My son's like always doing something. And I have to remind him to just be. Like this weekend, we went on a hike and their whole energy changed when we were out on that hike. They were so much more, the best way I can describe it is they felt so much love. Like I could see love literally oozing from their system. They were so cute. They would come to me and my husband and my mom and they'd keep giving us hugs and saying how much they loved us. And I was like, wow, you really are feeling nature and it's coming out like this. And even though, Nate, that's a great example, in hiking, you're doing, because you're walking and you're doing that, but there's also a stillness that comes when you are being in nature. It's one of the things that I talk to my kids a lot about how can they keep their minds still? How can we allow maybe 3 minutes of sitting still without doing anything? Can we allow 3 minutes of just focusing on our breath? Because we have to teach that. Children don't learn it. Like I said, if you have kids, you may notice this about your kids. They're doing a lot. And it allows them, when you teach them how to just be, it gives them room to just learn, to also learn how to still their minds. Because, guess what? If you don't learn that early in life, you're going to spend a lot of your time doing what you and I are doing as adults, going back to the basics, teaching ourselves how to sit in meditation. And it took, I remember when I started meditating, probably in my late teens, I think, I don't remember, but early on in life, it was kind of hard to sit. My mind would wander, or I would start to want to do something when I'm sitting. And it took time to train the brain to go, I do not have to do anything right now in this moment. Another example of being still or resting is taking a shower. When you have taken, it's funny, I'm bringing shower as an example because I am positive that when you have stood in a shower, you've had inspirational ideas come to you, haven't you? And that's because, again, it's like there's a sense of that you're resting, you're doing things to rest your body and your mind, and that allows the inspiration to come through. So I'm just inviting you to reflect on how can you bring more rest into your day. Do you need to go to bed early? Do you need to wake up early, or so that you can have that quiet time for yourself? What does rest look like for you? Like I said, there's so many aspects, there's so many different ways we can practice resting. It can be gardening, it can be hiking, it can be going to the beach and walking on the beach just without listening to anything, without focusing on anything, and just allowing you to just be. Because when you rest, when you give yourself time and space to rest, I guarantee you more creative thinking will come. And with that creative thinking comes inspiration, and then comes motivation to do whatever you want to do in life. Now, the only caveat I do want to add is there will be seasons in your life where you are going to be doing more than you're resting. And that's okay. As long as you can remember and you know that you will come back to rest, it's okay to also get into the doing mode. There are times for my business that I have to be in the doing place. There's no other way to get this going. But I also know that I inbuild rest, quiet time, meditation into that busy time as well. So this is a very short episode. I just wanted to at least get this episode into you guys to show that it doesn't have to be perfect. I know this is not my most perfect episode. I don't think there's any episode that's perfect for me. But I also wanted to share some of these thoughts. When we moved into our home, I realized how much stress my body was carrying without me even recognizing it. And I'm very mindful. I'm very present with my body. And I know when I'm overdoing something and overworking myself. And despite that awareness, I recognized how much stress my body was carrying for the last since April or May or whenever, I think since May, since we decided to move here, the work that has gone into getting us to this place was taking a toll on my body. So as soon as we moved in, Thanksgiving hit. And so there were days I just sat on my couch. My son is really into these young adult fiction books. It's really cute. They are magical. He's reading this really cute series. He loves magic. Of course, he's my kid, right? On this, it's really nice. It's a very nice series of fictional books that this woman writes. Her name is Angie Sage, and she's written this whole series called Septimus Heap. Well, I had no idea. He keeps picking up these books from the library, and I was so hooked. After Harry Potter, I tell you, this was the first series I sat down and I was like, I'm going to get through these books. They are so good. They're so, so good. So I just sat on the couch and read his books, and he and I were competing, like who was going to, because he wanted to read the book and I wanted to read the book, and it was kind of cute. We were having a fun time together. But I just sat and did nothing. And even that, I haven't read a fictional book in a long time. Most of my attention is on motivational books or inspirational books or books for my work. And I didn't give myself the time or space to do that. And it was really nice. It was really nice to just be. And it's December. And I'm giving myself almost all of December to just be, because this is the time for me to create for what I want to invite in 2022. I've literally created my calendar, and for days on end where it's written there is time to dream, which is actually going to be coming up. One of the episodes I'm going to be talking about how do you allow imagination to help you create the life you want. Dreaming is a big aspect of who said that? Was it Einstein who said that? Imagination is the preview of what is to come, or something of that extent. Imagination is the preview of something. Oh my goodness. You can clearly say this is not a perfect episode, and I'm going to ship it anyways because we're all human. I want to also show you that you can be imperfect in whatever you do, and it's still going to be okay. All right, with that, I wrap up this episode. I'm so glad you are here. I hope you all, whoever celebrates Thanksgiving, I know have listeners from all over the world. If you if you celebrated Thanksgiving, I hope you had a beautiful Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was a moment of reflection, of gratitude for me. And I hope it was the same for you. Next episode is a guest episode. And then after that, I'm going to be doing an episode on confidence, because that's another theme that I've noticed with many of my clients. So I'm going to do that. And have a beautiful December wherever you are, and I'll connect with you at the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening. I have a request for you. If you found value, chances are that your friends and family will too. So if you can leave a positive review on iTunes, it will help reach so many more people. And if you have any topics or questions you would like me to feature, please send them to support@padmaali.com. And lastly, please share your takeaways and breakthroughs with me on Instagram @Padma Ali. Thank you so much for tuning in.